Good afternoon, William and Mary. Thank you for joining us virtually again for this, our 8th community conversation since the start of the pandemic. Many of you know that this is the final week of the 2020 spring semester. This has been an extraordinary spring, an incredibly difficult spring. And also in many ways, an incredibly inspiring spring. This is a moment that I think brings so many mixed emotions for many of us. We've seen incredible creativity and care in this community and incredible resilience. And that's what has seen us through and is seeing us through and will continue to see us through as we begin thinking about next year. As we close this semester, these conversations are going to move into once a month events. We've found them so sustaining just to be able to hear the stories of people in this community as they are navigating an extraordinary spring together. And we also want to respect the rhythms of the summer. So look to us to be returning in about 3-4 weeks again, and we'll keep you posted. I think this conversation is a fitting capstone for the weeks that we've been meeting together at midweek to talk about what it's like to be in a university, to be together in every way that we can at a distance in pandemic. Of course, we're thinking a lot about Saturday's degree conferral ceremony and about commencement in the fall at the same time. We've been in planning those events, drawing on inputs from graduating students, from their families, from faculty and staff, and from alumni as they've remembered their own experiences. And our amazing commencement planning committee has crafted a beautiful both-and solution in person in October, with pomp and circumstance and all the joy that we expect from that. And to give this class as much chance to be together and to process and reflect on their experiences, a virtual ceremony this Saturday. The goals for that ceremony are to be joyful, to be personal and inclusive, and to be different. We want to acknowledge the significance of this moment for William and Mary and for our nation. And to all in the William and Mary community who are listening, please join us on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. It's going to be right on our website, wm.edu. Help us celebrate the extraordinary class of 2020 and mark what will be a historic moment for William and Mary. I've seen just a little of what we're going to be doing on Saturday, and I can promise you it will be fun, it will be warm and inclusive, and much will be different just for this class. So the focus of today's conversation is the class of 2020. I'm delighted that we're joined by 5 class of 2020 grads. Alexis Michalos, who will receive her master's degree in education, and 4 students who will be receiving bachelor's degrees, who are distinguished, as it turns out, as recipients of our graduation prizes. Kristen Popham, who will receive the Lord Botetourt Medal, Cameron Howe, co-recipient of the Sullivan Award, Ellie Thomas, who will receive the Carr Cup, and Milka Mered, who's also receiving the Sullivan Award. First of all, congratulations to all of you. I'm going to kick things off. I want you to feel free to prompt each other as we talk. As we said, we are really interested in your stories about William and Mary in this spring. I'm going to start with our virtual degree granting ceremony and ask you, Kristen, to say, what are you most looking forward to on Saturday?
Thank you so much for having us, President Rowe. I'm really excited for this weekend, particularly getting to thank my professors. I know we have several virtual meet and greets planned, as well as the note of gratitude that we're going to share with a member of the William and Mary community who's really affected us. And I think what's special about our institution and what's kind of weird about it is the really close relationship between the faculty, staff, and student body, and the priority on undergraduate education and those connections. So I know I'll see my fellow students again, but I really regret not getting that last coffee with my favorite professors. So I'm excited to thank them and kind of do that through a virtual way.
You know, we've never done that before. We've never invited the class to express gratitude. And that is so William and Mary to do that. I have the sense that in this virtual degree granting ceremony, we're going to be founding new traditions that are going to continue and will be the class of 2020 inaugurating traditions. Cameron, any thoughts too about Saturday?
Yeah, and so first I'll mimic what Kristen said, that thank you for your really warm and gentle introduction. I think for me, it would be two things. I think one, for me, a big part of processing loss and grief is feeling a part of something bigger than yourself, whether that's a cause, a community, or a graduating class. So to be with the people who have sustained me along the way will be deeply meaningful. And I think second is one of the hidden gifts of sort of having this gradual end to our time at college, is we have more time to take pause, to reflect, and to integrate some of the lessons we've learned along the way. So I'm really grateful to have that moment. And I'll sort of like land the plane with an abridged quote from Clay Clemens's Candlelight speech he gave that a professor sent to me and sort of has been top of mind for the last few weeks. But he said, decades from now, when you look back, other stretches of time will run together in your memory, but each year of college will stand out distinctly as a separate chapter associated forever with particular people and particular places. Freeze these moments in your mind, frame them in your memory, so that later in life you can return to a time when you were always young and it is forever spring. So I think having that reflection will be deeply meaningful.
I do hope this class can slow down right now over these couple of days, because I think that's profoundly true. One of the things that is most important to carry forward is how we were at this moment. The ability to remember that, who we were, what we did, how what we did defines who we are, and slowing down to take the time to savor it in its bittersweetness seems incredibly important. Milka or Alexis or Ellie, anything in particular you're looking for?
I would just first of all, thank you so much for having us, President Rowe. I would just like to add on to the two PowerPoints that, I really try to focus on the positive. And one way that I've been able to look at this graduation ceremony is that I get to spend, or I get to celebrate myself along with my friends. I wouldn't have been able to see their graduation ceremonies. Me and a friend have the same ceremony on the same weekend. And so for me to be able to watch her ceremony and my own, as well as my friends that are on various weekends, it's just so much, it's kind of joyous. And I feel like even more connected to the class of 20 on like a national, global kind of scale. And also just having that time to be with my family leading up to graduation has kind of been like this like sentimental journey. And so I've just really appreciated this kind of emotional experience as I like move on from this chapter of my life.
Wow, that is absolutely true. This class is a national class in a different way. And something that could never have happened before is the chance to participate in ceremonies for students who are in other campuses. That's really fantastic to think about.
I think also, I think Milka said it really well. The way that I just discovered William & Mary at first was because my parents both met here. So getting to graduate sitting next to them is pretty special. We've been coming back to Williamsburg every year since I was a little girl, and just getting to be by their side and take this moment to reflect is something that I'm really, really grateful for.
Yeah, kind of round things out. I am definitely super excited to be able to celebrate everything with all the different people I've met. I think everyone put it really well. It's that there is a lot of grief at this time, but there's a lot of celebration. And it's really encouraging to know that these celebrations are still happening and going to continue happening. We're getting 2 celebrations, which is really exciting. And there's going to be so many new surprises that come on Saturday that I'm super excited to be able to participate in. It'll be a founding and a new historic moment here at William & Mary amidst a history that this campus has already established.
It is a founding moment. That's exactly the right word. And it's a gift, although it's been a painful one, filled with loss, to be part of a founding moment. Refounding in ways that allow us to think about who we want to be under pressure, and who we strive to be. Yeah. So with that reflectiveness in mind, maybe Ellie, could you talk a little bit, give us a story that is for you a defining moment about your time at William & Mary, and I'll ask others to chime in after Ellie.
This is a great question. So my freshman year, I came in to William & Mary knowing that I really wanted to study international relations, but I really struggled with econ. I had a really hard time with microeconomics and macroeconomics, and I just felt like it didn't really click for me. And so I considered switching my major. I was kind of lost, honestly. And my sophomore year, I took a class with Professor LaSalvia. It was intermediate microeconomics, and it completely changed my life. I was actually one of the first students I think that he had met. I was in his 9 a.m. section, and I went to his office hours all the time. He mentored me, really helped me grow. And at the end of that semester, I ended up not just liking econ, I actually double majored in it. And so my life would be completely different if I hadn't had those experiences with him. And I'm really grateful because it's given me a different framework for how I think.
I hope he's listening or gets that shout out. Other defining moments.
Yeah, so a defining moment in my life really has been like my junior year, where I collaborated with Sinead Owens in the Center for Student Diversity, because I felt like there needed to be, there could be more structural ways to empower students of color on campus, because I know like coming into my freshman year, it was a bit of a challenge adjusting to the culture. And having experienced like 3 years of William & Mary, I kind of like saw different avenues of campus and how like we could better collaborate with creating more structural cultural efforts to like empower students of color. And so when I worked with Sinead Owens, we advocated with faculty and professional staff about structural ways we could really like target creating better relations with students of color. And through that point of my life, I began to understand more about myself and who I was and who I wanted to be, who I wanted to help, and how I could see William & Mary in the best way for me, and how people coming after me could really benefit from William & Mary and not really have to at times bear the burden of their background. And my goal is that, for students here on out, they're positively challenged by their environment and not burdened for whatever reason that may be. And doing that initiative with Sinead Owens, and then later working with Chris Nemechek and Ben Boone about collaborating with the CLA was a really cool way for me to find my place at William & Mary and see how I can make a change.
It's been incredibly impactful. It's that work that is in your award citation.
I want to build on those threads of sort of mentorship and collaboration. My freshman year, I was really excited about doing the DC Summer Institute for Leadership and Community Engagement. And I took my like prototypical like type A self to the office hours with one of the professors. And I had like a list of 10 to 15 questions I was going to ask about like, what do I need to do for my application and my essay? And the professor sat me down, and his first question was like, what is your story? Like, tell me about you. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced that with a professor or with a teacher. And 7 classes with that teacher later, he had the final words in my last class at William & Mary, which was, whatever path you choose, go with your whole heart, because that's the only path you'll ever know. And I think that's just so true of what William & Mary teaches. It doesn't funnel you down one path, rather it helps you discover your own and come to terms with your own voice.
I can give this one a shot too. It's hard for me to answer this questions because, or this question in particular, because there are just so many moments I think that have define who I am at William & Mary. But one in particular that I think about is to start freshman year when I came to school, all of the professors were like celebrities to me. Like, it didn't occur to me that like these people would just have office hours where you could like sit down with experts in something, and they would spend their time like talking to you and engaging your questions. And so I came to school like obsessed from some high school research with To Kill a Mockingbird, and like how it projected this kind of weird and problematic, oversimplified narrative of race in America. And I came in obsessed with it, and I would always talk about it in my classes. And then someone, Professor Jackson Sasser, who was my freshman seminar professor, said, you should really talk to Professor Simon Stowe in government. because he's also obsessed with this. So I walked into his office hours and I sat down and we talked for maybe 3 hours, just talking about our shared obsession. And that was like a really defining moment for me, not just because I ended up then, he put me in his senior seminar as a freshman, and then he let me do research with him. And then it launched me into this kind of like willingness to seek out more research opportunities and more ways to kind of challenge myself intellectually and put myself at tables where I didn't think I belonged. That really launched that for me. But in a lot of ways, I think that that story for me shows that William and Mary really rewards being obsessed with something. It's an institution that whatever your passion is, having a passion is incredibly rewarded. And so that's something for me that just kind of represents my experience here.
Yeah, to echo Kristen, not the research part of things, but there's so many defining moments that it's hard to answer just one. But kind of listening to everyone else, I think that one of the most defining moments for me, this past semester in my program, you only really have to take one in-person class, which I'm very fortunate about. And the course that I took was Student Affairs Administration with Dr. Ginger Ambler, who's the VPSA for the campus. And I recognize now the importance of just coming into that class and being greeted by people I hadn't seen since before the break, and knowing that it was going to be good conversations every class, and it was going to be well structured, and everyone was going to be vulnerable and share. And the fact that I knew that going into that class from day one, I look back on and I realized just how important it is that after only a few months, really, or 2 years of this program, I've been able to create relationships with people that will stay with me and that fuel me. And I know that they're going to be people I can rely on and trust. She ended the class with a song from The Greatest Showman called "This Is Me." And it stuck with me since that moment. I think that kind of really wraps up and looking back defines my experience here.
Cameron, maybe you could follow up by talking about what makes you most proud, what you are just most proud of from these 4 years.
So I'll, I guess, start by saying that this is bringing me a whole lot of joy. I think before we logged on, President Rowe said that this is the highlight of her week, and just seeing the joy and meaning in what you're sharing in your stories is really meaning a lot to me. I think in terms of a moment that I'm proud of, or something that's been a cornerstone of my time at William & Mary, I served as an RA for 2 years and as an OA for 1. So I think being deeply connected to the freshman experience has been deeply meaningful for me. A few nights ago, I got off a call with some of my constituents from this year, just sort of like reflecting on this moment. So I'll just share something that I've shared with my freshman hall for the last 3 years. And there's a theory in positive psychology that you are an amalgamation of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, they affirm and refine who you are. They are those who you sculpt your character against. I think this moment is just one of immense gratitude for those people, and just sort of reflecting on the 5 people that have formed me, and sort of like just being really intentional about who you pull close in that way. So that thread of the freshman experience and just the relationships that have formed me would be something that I'm proud of.
I can piggyback off that a little bit. I think a lot of my answers have to do with how unusual this school is. And I think I've come to realize that from spending more time away from it in some ways, just how unusual it is to be surrounded by the culture at William & Mary and the community there. I think what's cool about this institution is that students get to, when they leave, look at the school and often see something that they've changed in it, however slight that may be. But I think that's because in some ways it's a self-aware institution, and it uniquely takes in the input of students. So something that I'm really proud of is my sophomore year, when I noticed that there were things that our school could do to make a more inclusive space for students with chronic illnesses and disabilities on campus. I went to administration. I went to Kelly Crace, the director of the Health and Wellness Center, and he didn't say, "No, that doesn't sound like William & Mary. No, we're better than that." He said, "Great, what can we do to change?" And since then, he's been an instrumental part of having conversations between students and the whole community. And I can look back at William and Mary and see real changes, real transformations. And I think we're such an old institution. If we're not growing, we're dying. And students are such an active part of that growth. And I'm really proud to be a part of that and to look back and see it.
I'd also like to piggyback. I think something that I'm really proud of these past 4 years is not succumbing to imposter syndrome, because I've had a lot of, I'm very blessed to have been given a lot of opportunities to get to know different parts of campus, work with the CSD, work with the CLA, be a President's Aide with President Rowe, like feeling like I couldn't do those things and like not allowing myself to be intimidated by those kinds of opportunities. And I think that it's something really important to always like keep in the back of your mind as you're navigating higher education, whether you are first generation or you're away from home or you're just out of your comfort zone. I just think that that's something to really like try and instill yourself, that you can literally do anything. You can create anything. And matter of fact, life may be much easier for you creating like your own path and like standing strong behind your beliefs. And for that, I'm like forever grateful for William and Mary, because I don't think I would have been who I was or what I will be aspiring to after graduation without not succumbing to imposter syndrome.
I think echoing off of what a couple of people have said, I've been really involved in student government since my freshman year at William & Mary, and I'm so grateful to have had so many wonderful mentors, people who have really helped me to grow as a leader. And I think that what I'm most proud of is that I hope that I've created a culture in Student Assembly where people feel like that's been given back. I've really tried to make an effort to mentor freshmen and make sure that they feel heard and like they have a voice in the conversation, and also that they always feel respected. Everyone has various levels of knowledge about different things, but everyone is so passionate, and it's been beyond a privilege to get to work with them and to carry that culture forward. So that's probably my favorite thing that I'm proud of.
Kind of echoing what everyone else is saying, I think what I'm most proud of is the people here at William & Mary and the sense of belonging that I truly have found. You can't do anything on your own. And I think that while I have so many different specific things I'm proud of that I've done through the work I've done with students and in my master's program and all that, I think it's the people that have helped me get there that I'm most proud of, because again, those are connections I'm going to retain for the remainder of my life. And it will pop up at random spots, because if I've learned nothing else from William & Mary, it's that this legacy continues on and will show up in different ways throughout your life in the most unexpected and wonderful ways.
That is so true. Only 2 years as part of this community. You guys have had 4, right? Or at least 2. I've learned that it pulls together in expected and unexpected ways. And you find that there is a bulwark out there, even at the toughest moments for you as part of the William & Mary universe. I want to talk about the spring and ask you to maybe share what's been the best advice that you received this spring and that you want to carry forward. And I'm going to actually kick things off, because one of the best pieces of advice I got this spring was from Milka. She didn't remember yesterday that she had said it in the President's Aides meeting, virtual meeting, but she did. She remembered it when I reminded her. And you got it, I think, Milka, from somebody else. Because when you told the story, you said, I learned something important from a friend this last week, which was about how to think about what we're doing this spring. It's not that we are studying from home. We are trying to finish the semester in quarantine. And that was a huge mindset shift for me, because we keep talking that we're doing online learning right now. That's not actually what we're doing. The technology is not perfect. We pivoted incredibly fast with incredibly strong shared purpose. But what's the real challenge that we're all experiencing is that we're in quarantine. And every dimension of that challenges how we learn, how we forge the bonds you've been talking about. It makes us really vulnerable. And Milka, when you shared that, I really began to think differently about how to talk about what's been vulnerable and hard, and also what's inspiring about the way we've conducted this semester and what students have accomplished. So I share that as one of the best pieces of advice, and something, that mindset shift is what I'm going to carry forward through next year. Or maybe Milka, you could kick us off, since I've taken away one of your best pieces of advice.
I think that to piggyback off of that, I think that especially like advice for like incoming freshmen or students that are just navigating new spaces, like I think to add on, always like remembering like yourself, this comes first, then your health, then your education. And if you prioritize yourself in that kind of way, I think school will be much more successful for you. I think that you'll realize that you will be able to balance your time much more efficiently and balance this new virtual world that we are hopefully temporarily navigating. And I think that that's definitely been something that's helped me during this spring, especially having professors that have really been understanding. I mean, one of my professors was like, fill out this survey, tell us what you can and can't do, and I'm super open to any changes to the syllabus that you all may want to suggest. Like, we are in a pandemic. So that's something that was super important for me to hear.
I can go ahead. To be candid, a couple weeks ago, I've had a job since last November of 2019. I was very fortunate. And then a couple weeks ago, I found out that none of the new hires were going to be invited back. And I was really scared. It was a period of uncertainty. And I thought I had positioned myself to be like immune to uncertainty, as privileged as that sounds. Like, I thought I had worked hard enough. But the truth is, this is uncertain times for everyone. Unfortunately, since then, through the support of students and through the support of the Career Center, I've actually found another position. So I'll have a job, and I'm one of the students who will, and I'm very grateful for that. But I want to share a piece of advice that I got from a professor who I'm very close to, who I emailed during that time, like kind of like, I just don't know what to do. And I pulled up his email. He wrote back, we are obviously in a period of uncertainty, but in the longer term, you will succeed. The only other thing that I can suggest is that you try to make something happen for yourself. Use your skills to create something that you care about that might be of value to others. Right now, the opportunity cost of doing something like that is zero. And even if it were not to succeed, the experience of doing it would be invaluable. There's a sense in which you have been granted, if not a gift, then certainly a license to try something you might not normally have attempted. Alternatively, there's always coronavirus profiteering, which was a joke, obviously. But that embracing of uncertainty and learning to use this time, and I know for some of us, it's really not a gift. For some of us, this is, who have lost family members, who have gone through incredible suffering, who are not in the situation to benefit from the situation. That goes without saying, that this is going to be hard, and it's okay if it's not easy, but also embracing uncertainty. That's something I'm working on right now.
Kristen, that was so well said. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just really inspired. I think, so I have a friend from home who we send essays back and forth to one another. And he sent me this essay called The Green Goose. And basically it was kind of about feeling this moment and feeling time, and how the grass is always greener on the other side. And usually in our everyday life, everything's moving so quickly. Time is really something that we're constantly striving towards. And here we are in this time where we have a lot of time to think and really reflect. And so basically the point of his essay was just to really allow yourself to breathe and feel this moment, and to kind of take a philosophical pause. And I've been really appreciating that, especially going into next year, and probably a busy career. In some ways, it's a privilege to get time just to be and let things sink in, even though it's really hard.
I think one of the things that has come up over and over and over again in the past few weeks for me and that can continue outside of pandemic, hopefully, is asking for what you need and what you want. Because it's easy to assume that other people know what you need when sometimes either that's not apparent, or you don't even know what you need. So making sure you're advocating for yourself and you're asking and you're speaking up, because most people have the grace to give you permission to be a little messy or to have extensions or whatever that might look like for your situation. So making sure you speak up for yourself.
Everything people have said so far completely resonates. There are two things that come to mind. One is to maintain physical distance while bringing social relationships close. So keep the people who have formed you along the way close to you. For example, tonight with a few friends, I'll be watching the Becoming documentary about Michelle Obama's book on Netflix, which I heard is amazing. So maintain those social relationships even while you have physical distance. And the second thing, which I think is just like, I hope all seniors like feel this and hear this, is like you are ready. Like it says in the mission, vision, and value statement, you know, we are equipped for lives of meaning and distinction, and to balance, you know, going through a final season at William & Mary and the emotional load of being like in this moment in our history is a tremendous accomplishment. I'll finish with this. There's a quote by John Stuart Bryan, who was our 19th president at William & Mary, that I think captures it best. And he said, "What William & Mary gives to its students is the will to go forward, the courage to endure, the power to rise, and the resilience to recover." And I think that is what we leave our time at William & Mary with.
That's really beautiful. Such fantastic advice. You are ready. There's no question. We'll do a quick flash round and then I'll wrap things up. So the flash round is, what are you doing right after graduation? Alexis, start us off.
All right, so I'm still in Williamsburg, so I'll be heading back home to South Carolina to be with my family and then continue my job search. So if anyone's hiring in higher ed, please look up myself and my classmates to give us jobs.
Alexis, I will be following you and receiving a Master's of Education at the University of Pittsburgh if everything goes to plan. So I'm super excited about that.
I will be starting a job at Lafayette Group, which is a national security and public safety consulting firm up outside of Washington, D.C.
I'm currently planning on starting my master's in the fall at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. And I'm going to study European and Eurasian studies and international economics.
And I'll be starting as a human capital consultant at Deloitte in Washington, D.C. in September.
And you'll all be sending me notes to say what it's like in 2 weeks. I want to thank all of you. You've been incredible guests. I have a few words that are for the class of 2020 graduate students, professional students, undergraduates, and then a few words for everyone else who's listening. For the class of 2020, I'm speaking for everybody, every staff member and faculty member at William & Mary. We are so proud of you. And we can't imagine better partners this spring. Everything that you have said, the 5 of you, has captured what I've experienced from William & Mary students this spring. And what you gave up was real. The difficulties and the sadness are real. And you should feel also inspired and proud because we've saved lives by being in quarantine. So that's my thanks. For everyone else listening, I'm gonna weave together some of what we've heard. First, just say, this is us. This is William & Mary that you just heard. And the advice from this spring is really beautiful and profound. I wanna say, embrace the vulnerability and the instability, as Kristen said. Go with your whole heart. Put yourself at tables where you don't think you belong. Keep doing that. as we've heard from everybody, shape the world that you believe in. And we're so glad to be in it with you. So I'll sign off the way I always do in these conversations until we next talk. Stay well, William and Mary.